Welcome to RIMScast Canada, a video podcast produced by RIMS, exploring the evolving risk landscape in Canada today. This series will be hosted in 2026 by Aaron Laconi, RIMS Canada National Conference Committee Chair. I'm your producer and co-host, Justin Smullison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS, the Risk and Insurance Management Society. Our mission with RIMScast Canada is to provide perspective from experienced risk professionals in Canada to further educate and inform the global risk community. And we have the ideal guest to help kick off the show. She is Stacie Laurencelle, RIMS-CRMP. Stacie and Aaron go way back, so Aaron will make the proper introduction. But before we get to the interview, let's introduce your RIMScast Canada host, Aaron Laconi. So welcome everyone to the inaugural RIMScast Canada episode. I am joined by your host, Aaron Laconi. Aaron, welcome.
Thank you, Justin. I am extremely excited to be here. Hosting a podcast has always been on my list of things to do, and I'm super excited that it came to fruition a couple of months ago when we did some planning at the RIMS Canada conference. So this is going to be incredible.
This is going to be fantastic. Now, you're the RIMS Canada National Conference Committee Chair, and I can't think of a better person to be the face of RIMScast Canada than you. So you're also going to be the voice of it.
Being the national conference chair has given me so many opportunities to meet and speak with amazing Canadian members across Canada. And I really think this is going to be a great platform for them to have some of their voices heard, some of their stories told, to look at some of those uniquely Canadian risk and insurance trends that will really provide some excellent value across Canada and to our membership.
Terrific. Now, our guest today is Stacie Laurencelle. Now, I know her a little bit from meeting her at RIMS Canada conferences. She's also a RIMS-CRMP holder, so I got to do a little interview with her for the RIMS-CRMP Stories feature. But you know her a little bit, or a lot better than I do. Tell us how you know her and what the audience can expect to hear from her.
Absolutely. So Stacie and I have gone back for many years. I met her actually volunteering for the RIMS Canada Council, and then later at a RIMS Academy over in London with Lloyd's. And, you know, she's not only a respected leader in Canada's risk and insurance community, but she's always been an inspiration to me personally as I've been growing my career. So Stacie herself, though, just to give her a little background, because she's just such a fascinating individual, she's the manager of insurance at Richardson International Limited, and she's also an instructor at the University of Winnipeg. She's a risk and insurance leader. She has extensive experience spanning risk management, insurance strategy, and of course, organizational leadership. Like you mentioned, she has her RIMS-CRMP, which also demonstrates her pursuit of continuing knowledge and professional education, which always speaks to my heart. And anybody else who knows her personally knows that she's very well known for her thoughtful, practical approach to risk. She connects strategy, leadership, and that real-world decision-making. And then also, she's a very strong advocate for the profession and a trusted voice in conversations around the future of risk here in Canada. So I'm really excited to have her today to launch this podcast.
All right, so let's get to it. Stacie Laurencelle, welcome to
RIMScast Canada. Welcome, Stacie, to our first RIMScast Canada podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. And before we dive into risk and the big issues facing our profession, I'd love to start with you. What first drew you into the insurance industry, and what's kept you engaged all these years?
Well, thank you, Erin. It's nice to see you, and thanks to everybody for joining. I would say what drew me into risk and insurance was that I was working for a president and CFO of a company, and part of his responsibility was placing insurance for the organization. And this was back in the day when insurance manuals used to be maybe 700 to 1,000 pages. And I had so many questions about whether or not there was a claim that I would phone the broker. And she would say, well, if you look in your manual at page 556, you will see it says here XYZ. And so it became more of a challenge for me that now I had to look it up first before I phoned to confirm whether or not I had a claim. And it's just snowballed from there. I really enjoy it. It's a challenge for me. You never learn everything. You never know everything. And there's always more that you can look at as you go forward.
That is absolutely so true. I remember those manuals, having to go through them to look for ratings and claims information and discount codes and then surplus codes. That was such a time. So now that we're looking at the Canadian risk and insurance landscape now, moving forward from our paper days, what do you think is fundamentally changing? And maybe not so much trending, but like actually changing with our landscape?
Well, thanks. That is a very interesting question, because what I think is that the nature of risk itself is changing, right? Traditionally, everything in the past was based on stable historical data. But now, with extreme weather events and cyber attacks, supply chain disruption, like, these risks are just increasing in frequency and severity, and it's fundamentally changing how risks interact and compound. We know insurers are looking at um, changing their models. They can't look at historical averages anymore. And it's really moving towards scenario based, forward looking, integrated risk decision making.
With all those fundamental changes, what do you see as the one that's most prominent for your organization right now? What are you facing?
Well, from my perspective, working with a company that has a global risk portfolio, the challenge is really not in identifying those risks, but in understanding how they interact with each other and affect decision making in real time.
Thanks for that, Stacie. Canada has a unique mix of public and private risk, as you know, that climate exposure that you did mention, and we have that unique regulatory structure. So, what do you think, in your opinion, that Canadian organizations still underestimate?
I think, while Canada is a very stable market and we do have that mature regulatory framework, I think we're underestimating the true scale of climate duration risk, right? Like, a lot of times we focus narrowly on physical damage to our assets rather than the cascading effects of all of these events that can happen. So, for example, um, we could experience a prolonged business interruption from an infrastructure failure, right? Whether we lose our ports or our railways, maybe our roads or the power sources. We could also see longer duration risk from supply chain that's tied to a single corridor. And a very good example of that would be the rail lines that lead into BC.
Absolutely.
And lastly, the labor impact. I mean, all of these climate risks that have a longer duration, it could lead to loss of housing. It could lead to evacuations in the area. It could lead to loss of air quality. So all of these things can create exposures that exceed our insured loss. And it's important that we look well beyond the event itself. I think a lot of times we think that disaster assistance is going to kick in. We have a very high um, perspective on that. However, many organizations don't realize that that's not going to fill the gaps. So all of these climate duration risks, they create exposures that exceed the insured's property values and persist well beyond the event itself. For instance, disaster assistance expectations are very high. Some of the organizations think that if the public responds, it's going to fill those gaps, but we may very well find out that it becomes a private exposure. Businesses might see that their risks are compounding across supply chains and people and provinces, and that is at time and cost and friction to recovery. So recovery now is not just a primary balance sheet risk. Recovery time is now a primary balance sheet risk. So when leaders understand where the risk persists, they can make better decisions and prepare to carry more of their own recovery costs.
All right, we're going to take a little break. Aaron, you having fun?
I'm having such a great time, Justin. This is amazing.
It's a lot of fun to be a podcaster. And you know what else is a lot of fun? Risk World.
Well, I would agree with you there. Absolutely. Risk World is such a great time.
Risk World is fantastic. And Risk World 2026 will be held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that's the US, May 3rd through the 6th. And while you're there, you can connect, cultivate, and collaborate. Did you know that?
I did know that. And I also know that the Liberty Bell is in Philadelphia.
That is 100% true. Did you also know that public registration is open now?
No, I did not know that, but that's great to hear because I would like to register to get those early bird rates.
Ah, how did you know I was going to say that? Did you know that the advanced rate, the early bird rate, ends on February 28th, 2026? That is your last chance to get the best possible rate that you can get. So would you recommend that to anybody out there who hasn't really purchased their Riskworld pass yet?
Absolutely. The way the economy is right now, I will save money any chance I get. And that means I'm going to be penciling it in to get it done before February 28th.
That's right. And now we've got a link to Riskworld up on your screen right now. And you can always just go to rims.org. It's the first thing that pops up is a little banner for Riskworld. We want to see you there. We've got some fantastic sessions and tracks that will be announced soon, right?
That is correct. Yep. I believe the agenda is being worked on as we speak.
Yes. And actually, I take that back. The schedule at a glance is also live now. So if you want to check out what we've got in store for you as an attendee, as an exhibitor, as a student, go over there, check it out. The link is also on this episode's show notes. Now, looking downfield, Aaron, we've got to talk about one of my favorite events of the year, which is always RIMS Canada Conference.
Absolutely. I mean, let's get Riskworld first, but right after Riskworld, the biggest, best event in Canada is, of course, the RIMS Canada Conference. And we're very, very excited to be hosting it in Quebec City this year. So please pencil those save the dates for October 18th to 21st in your calendar, because not only is it in Quebec City, which is stunningly beautiful and historical, but it is also RIMS Canada's 50th conference. So it will be extra special, and you are not going to want to miss the opportunity to attend that event.
That is going to be fantastic. I vacationed there last year in Quebec City, and we had a wonderful time. So I can't think of a better place to spend the 50th anniversary of the RIMS Canada Conference. So, folks, there's no official information out yet. You can't register yet. But we do also want to mention that we want you to keep in mind ideas for educational sessions in case you want to submit one.
Exactly. Yeah. So call for submissions will be coming out in the next couple of months. So if you have an idea, this is a great opportunity to contribute to your industry, to speak to a topic that is either trending or valuable. These things need to be shared, and it will be an exceptional agenda. So start planning those sessions now for submissions in the next couple of months.
Now, you're doing a great job with Stacie. Let's return to the inaugural interview for RIMScast Canada with Stacie Laurencelle.
Valid point. Sounds like you have a little bit of experience in that area. So was there a moment in your career where that type of risk felt really real? Where a decision that you or your executive or you supported your executive in making truly mattered?
Well, it hasn't shown up as a single dramatic moment in time, but rather it's been realized when I've discovered that risk isn't always in the room when some of these decisions are made. They're not brought into the conversation. So executives might make a decision thinking that insurance is going to kick in, and they ask that you step in and make it work when it doesn't. And so in reality, policy languages and exclusions come into play, and those don't always align with the expectations of the leaders. And so that's when risk can feel very real, and has felt very real for myself, in having to explain where we're actually retaining the risk.
So just touching on that a little further. So how do you see the relationship between risk management and risk managers and leadership currently and evolving, especially at those executive levels?
There is an evolution. I think that it is a shift from compliance to strategic partnership. Executives and boards want to understand where risk is shaping the business. And so you and I know, Aaron, as risk management professionals, that we don't rely on insurance alone. We put controls in place, and we work within our organization's risk appetite. We transfer risk, and we're looking for insurance for catastrophic losses that could threaten the company. So our goal is simply to make risk visible so that leadership can act with confidence.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think in both public and private sectors, it's starting to become a lot more prevalent that executives have to really start looking at their risk portfolios to make those proper decisions, to have the layers in place to cover these losses that, like you said, haven't necessarily even been considered because they're always incremental to other losses. And I think we saw some of that with COVID and with some of the economic challenges that we've had in the last few years, that spiraling effect of things that you never really considered before because it was never on anyone's radar. So it's
The
important
cascading
for,
effect.
yeah, and it's so important for risk managers to be aware of that and make sure that they are bringing it up to their leadership so that leadership can pivot, as a favorite trending word, and make other decisions to make sure that they're fully covered. So, Stacie, you are a course instructor at PACE, so that's the University of Winnipeg, and you're big into education, but you were studying for the RIMS Certified Risk Management Professional, or the CRMP designation, and you earned that in 2025, so not too long ago. Can you tell me what it was like to study for the exam, and how valuable was it to you?
Well, I had the benefit because I was teaching at PACE at the time. The course for risk was risk management principles and practices. And that really set the foundation for studying. In fact, I found that was super useful to me, having to kind of just take a step back and think of myself from a broader perspective, take all the knowledge that I already had on and experience that I had, and then just bring it back to basics, I guess. And it's been very valuable because I've had a lot of congratulatory notes and people recognize the effort and the what it means to the industry as a whole. As well, it's helped me look at things from a big picture and really spend time communicating and being very clear in the risks that the corporation sees.
Excellent. And just kind of adding on to that, for someone early in their risk or insurance career, what kind of skills or experience would matter the most over the next decade?
The skills that would matter the most, I would say, is their um, as cyber attacks and AI disruption is becoming events that can occur. I would say that they need to have comfort with analytics as well as the ability to look at the organization as a whole and communicate those risks.
So, Stacie, you and I met way back in the day. I'm pretty sure it was a Tuesday, sitting on the RIMS Canada Council. And then from there, we were able to spend some quality time together in Lloyd's of London with the RIMS Risk Management Academy. So you've always been an inspiration to me. And what are you doing now for the community? You've always been so active.
Well, thank you. Having all those experiences have been wonderful. And I'm now actually working with RIMS on the nominations committee, which identifies and recommends people to be elected to the board and the directors of RIMS.
Oh, that's an important role. So I'm really glad to hear that you're continuing to volunteer and put your hand up for things. Would you recommend that for all of our listeners?
Absolutely. And you can start small, start up at chapter level, get to know the people who are in your group and take on some smaller projects that way. And then you can maybe apply to the RIMS Risk Management Academy if you do with Lloyd's of London Insurance Company as well, but even put up your hand for the global RIMS. Um, you will be very happy with your experience there. It's an excellent networking opportunity to you, and there will never be a regret.
Yeah, I agree. The networking opportunities, the career advancement opportunities, giving back to an industry that does so much for us, for our communities, for our family and our friends all across the world is so important. And I think more than ever, we need people to put their hands up and get involved.
And participating in all of these, whether it's at the chapter level or the RIMS Canada level or the national level or the global level, um, it 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 connects you to so many others that are even in your industry. And sometimes you can't find that within Canada. We are very few and far between sometimes here. There's a lot of people, but we're very separated. And so it can lead to conversations with others in your business or industry. And so you just can't um, find anything more valuable than finding a group of people that you can talk to about your same concerns and issues that you're having in your organization from a risk and insurance perspective.
That's a great point. The risk community itself, even globally, is so small. And being able to reach out and have conversations with a wide variety of people only expands both our knowledge and our understanding of risks around the world, but can help support us in our own risk making decisions or how we present things to, like we talked about earlier, our executive. What are other people doing with these risks? How are other people handling these types of events? Where would our organization sit if this was to happen, maybe to us, or getting those play-by-plays through other people who have experienced things that we haven't yet. So, yeah.
And the markets as well, right? Like how
Yes.
is the market treating you? We're in the same industry, but you're in the United States and I'm in Canada. Is it the same? Are you still seeing the same things in different lines of business, or how is that affecting you? So, yes,
Exactly.
very invaluable experiences joining as a volunteer and leader for RIMS. So highly recommend that all of you try and put your hand up. And like I said, start small at the chapter level and work your way through it.
Special thanks again to our guest, Stacie Laurencelle, RIMS-CRMP. A link to her RIMS-CRMP story is on your screen right now. And of course, special thanks to our wonderful RIMScast Canada host, Aaron Luconi. Look for a new episode every single month here on rims.org/Canada. My name is Justin Smolison, Business Content Manager here at RIMS and the host of RIMScast. Thank you for tuning in and keep coming back to the RIMS Canada homepage every month for a brand new episode of RIMScast Canada.